Hey everybody, today we're talking about The Private Eye. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent Cosina, and today we're talking about The Private Eye by Brian K. Vaughn and Marcos Martin and his wife colorist Munsa Vicente? I'm not sure. What is this? I've never heard of this, Brent. Then that's a weird shape, right? Yes. This is a landscape comic book as opposed to your regular size trade paperback. And if you even line it up as a trade paperback, it's bigger than that. So this is very similar to things like 300. I'm going to pull up my copy of Xerxes here because this is the other landscape book I have. I have this and 300. There's also a book by J.H. Williams, so just size comparison there. I forget what it's called. It came out recently. That's also landscape, but I think it's the 8.5 by, or whatever the regular comic page size is. This is a little bit bigger than that. So what this is this is a collection of the digital comic book that came out back in 2016 on panelsyndicate.com, which is a website by Brian K. Vaughn and Marcos Martin. Brian K. Vaughn, you may be familiar with him with, of course, Y the Last Man, Lost, the TV show. What else did he do? Pride of Baghdad, things like that. And he's a great writer. I really enjoy a lot of his stuff. Marcos Martin, you may have seen him on Spider-Man and Daredevil and lots of other places. He's a phenomenal artist. So back in 2016, they tell the story in the back matter of this collected edition. Again, I got this at the library. Great place to find things you'll never find anywhere else because they're out of print. Thank you, Orange County Library here in Florida. Anyway, so this was something they were doing online, and they were publishing the chapters online. I think there's 10 or 11 chapters in here, and each chapter is, I can't show you that page. There's a little bit of nudity in here. Each chapter is like massive. So the idea was, let's do something a little bit differently online, because at the time in 2016, Comixology was a big thing. People were reading on their iPads more and on their phones more, and they were doing like the guided view, panel view, stuff like that. So Marcos Martin told Brian K. Vaughn as they're coming up with this idea, I want to do something a little bit different. So this is formatted basically for your 16 by 9 monitor or cell phone or whatever at the time. So that's why it's that kind of almost ratio. I think it's a little bit wider than 16 by 9 per se. But it works very well. So if you were reading it on a computer screen that was, this big in front of you on a monitor, you would have the full, basically this kind of same size image in front of you, which is pretty cool. As a book to read this widescreen, it is a little weird, because if you're holding a book in one hand, you can do it pretty easily. Maybe having two hands. I read this in my lap, of course. But I did read it outside last night while having a cigar on the back porch, and that seemed to do okay on my lounge chair on the back porch or whatever. So it works fine. It's a little wonky when you get down to these middle pages because they'll kind of sag a little bit, but you just kind of keep it straight, right, and take care of it. The Xerxes and 300 book have given me the same issue when I've read them before. So that's what this is. What is the story, Brent? You seem really excited. Well, the story is really good. Obviously, me talking about it this excitedly. It's a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I read it through in like one sitting. I could not put it down except to eat. Really, really cool. So The Private Eye takes place in the future. Not the far, far future, but maybe like 100 years from now, something like that. Not even that. Maybe from 2025, I think it's like 2071 or something like that. We're a couple decades out. And there's a character in here, one of the grandpas, and he's basically my age in this story if I aged in real time from when this takes place. So imagine me, a 40-year-old man, an 80-year-old man, 85-year-old man, talking about how great the Facebook era was, right, when the internet still existed. So the idea is this is basically a murder mystery, as most good Private Eye stories are, right? There's a little bit of murder involved, so it's very noir-ish. And how do you make a murder mystery interesting? Well, you set it in an interesting place, right? That can help one of the things make it interesting if you just have a basic murder mystery story. Also, characters help, and that's the thing that Brian K. Vaughn is so good at, is his characterization. So like if you read The One Hand and the Six Fingers, that's a murder mystery set in the future in some weird techno Earth. And ultimately, the setting didn't really help that murder mystery. But the setting really does help this because it lends to why the things are the way they are, what the murder mystery behind the murder is, and then also the clues and how they're solving things. Everything falls or comes together. All the puzzle pieces come together in a way that fits in this lived-in world, as opposed to your regular murder mystery where somebody gets attacked and you're looking at clues and one thing leads to another. This one is very interesting how they're putting things together because in this world, things don't exist. The internet does not exist. People don't have cell phones. They call each other on hands. They don't have iPads. They don't have screens other than like the TV screen. There's no Google. And the main piece of the law is basically the press. So the press has become the dominant power in this world, the fourth estate. And if you're a lead press reporter, you're pretty high up. If you're a national press reporter on CNN, you're basically the FBI. So they fear those people with a fine-tooth comb because at some point in the past, all of the things in the digital cloud got released. So all of your secrets came out, right? And you're like, Brent, I don't have any secrets. I'm a nice buttoned-up guy. I got a wife, I got kids, or I got a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. We're cool. I don't do anything weird. Well, have you ever searched for anything maybe you thought you shouldn't have? That's the kind of thing that came out of this digital cloud, and that's basically so. And it's spelled out in this book, basically, that everybody's search histories got revealed, and that's what broke apart marriages. So now everybody in this world walks around in a mask, basically, and has they themselves as a secret identity. So you're out there walking, going to the grocery store, going to the movies, going on dates with a mask on, hence all these people in these weird helmets and things like that on the cover. And that way nobody knows what you're doing because they're so afraid and they're so traumatized by all their secrets coming out of when the digital cloud burst, basically, is how they phrase it. So that leads to all sorts of complications about how you find clues. You can't really identify anybody easily because everything's kind of hidden behind this wall of secrecy. And because of that, the press is the most feared person, group, organization in this country because they're the ones out to find out all of your secrets. So they're the ones with the power to expose you. Not necessarily the law, that may be part of it, but they enforce the law through the press, through newspapers, which are actually read, through books, which are actually read, like physical books, physical newspapers, and television. So basically, like, imagine if you're in the 1980s plus masks kind of thing. That's kind of the world that the far future here lives in because they're so traumatized by all the digital secrets coming out of the cloud. So that makes for a really interesting twist on the future. Plus you add in all this cool future designs from Marcos Martin and his beautiful drawings. There's rockets involved. There's murder. This is the old man over here in this corner. He's basically me in 55 years, but he has tattoos. I don't have tattoos. But basically so one of the clues, they find an old iPad and they're like, hey, can you turn this? What is this? How do you turn it on? How do you do anything? He's like, it's not even charged. Let me see if I have an old charger. It's in the garage. Go look. So then they're looking through this big box of cords and plugs, and they're like, why does this guy have so many chargers? Which, if you remember being alive in 2016, every device came with a new cord and a new plug for you to plug into, and you just were drowning in these endless cords and endless charger plugs and things like that. So me being a millennial and the old man, they call him, being a millennial child is very, very funny to me. So I enjoyed that. But the characters are cool. You don't really know learn a little bit who the characters are as you go along. So that adds to the mystery. Who is the client? Who is the private eye that we're following? Who's our main character, our protagonist? What's his story? What's the old man's story? What's the story behind the world? Why are things the way they are? So you have all these layers of mystery unraveling as you go chapter by chapter, and you learn a little bit more about each different thing, which makes for a very exciting, very engrossing read. So if you have not read The Private Eye, check your local library, check it out online. Maybe you want a hard copy of it. This is a pretty cool edition to own. I don't know how you would store it on a comic book shelf because it is obviously a bit longer than that. And it's a little bit tough. So maybe you could store it like in your omnibus or oversized hardcover shelf, but obviously you don't have a spine or anything like that. But yeah, also you can go to panelsyndicate.com and check it out there. You can purchase it there. I think at the time they described in the back matter here in the script saying that they were doing it for whatever people thought price was reasonable. This is like, what, 10 years later, so that obviously could have changed by now, but yeah, so check it out any way you can, search it out. It's a great story, and this is another Brian K. Vaughn masterpiece in my opinion that is little known, little talked about. So this comes with my full-throated 2 thumbs up recommendation here. The Private Eye, Brian K. Vaughn, Marcos Martin. This edition is from Image Comics, and it's on panelsyndicate.com. So check it out. Let me know what you guys thought of the Private Eye down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.